Hey there, early signs of autism. That's what we're here to talk about today. Hi there. Hi. Thanks for being here. It's good to see you. You can tell me, please tell me who you are so I know who you are that's there. If you don't tell me, if you don't type anything, I don't know who you are. Just want to know who's supporting. I want to give you a shout out. That's all. Okay, so I don't see any questions yet. I'm going to kind of wait for people to come in. Um, but I do have some telltale signs of early stages of autism. The first thing that you're going to definitely look at is facial structure. Um, if your child is under 1, you can look at how the child feeds. If you're nursing or you're bottle feeding, you can look to see if the child is smiling. Definitely smiling at 8 months. They should be doing lots of smiling and laughing when you do things that are, funny. If you see that the child is not really responsive, sometimes you might see that the child is like bland, like just a bland look. As they get older, hitting 2, they should be formulating words. They should be becoming social. We are social beings. There's some part in the hippocampus area and the cerebral cortex that is kind of like the signals and the wires get crossed for children with autism and ADHD. It is easier to detect by the time they turn 2, 2.5, because by that time they really are talking normally. If your child is not talking, that's an early sign. And you definitely want to start to get them to, you definitely want to get a doctor's opinion, go to your primary doctor, and you want to have your daughter tested, or son. I'm sorry, I'm biased. I only have girls. But you want to get your sons and daughters tested. The reason why you want to get them tested, because you want to start early intervention. And my thoughts of early intervention is very different from what the medical field would say. Again, I'm not a doctor. I'm a mom. That's my disclaimer. Okay, so if you know for sure that they're diagnosing your child as autistic, there are several things you can begin to do. But anyway, we're going to talk more about signs. Okay, what I found with my child and other children, everybody's different. My daughter's Asperger, high on the spectrum, autism spectrum. My daughter became very jumpy, like she couldn't stay still. She was, like I said in the earlier video, all over the place. When I say all over the place, I mean she was climbing up on countertops. She was jumping on the couch. She couldn't be still. She just could not be still. And at that time, of course, I didn't know that me giving her the treats that I was giving her was making it worse. I was giving her sugar. You figure I gave her cereal, and then you had your breakfast. As long as you have your breakfast, okay, you can have a little crumpet or cake. Oh, the worst thing I could have done, giving her sugar. Had I known, I probably would have minimized a lot more symptoms than I have at this time. And then on top of that, she got the mercury injection for the flu vaccine. I let her get the H1N1 after she was 2. It was one. By the time she turned 2, it was in 1. The shot was in 1. When she was an infant, they were separate. And, I and her father agreed, no. we will not let her get the H1N1. We'll let her get the flu shot, knowing that the flu shot was filled with mercury and all these types of heavy metals, which also denses the pineal gland for thinking, and all this thinking processes, the frontal lobes that, they're not fully developed until you're 30, but they're growing, and just everything toxic messing with her growth and her being able to properly assess, information that's coming in. And that's where that oversensory processing comes from. I don't know how it all works, but I just know that there's definitely some tampering there when it comes to the flu vaccines and all of that. So anyway, she was very, very systematic. She would go from just very, very over processing anything. She would stem. She'd do the rocking. She would just be rocking, staring into space. And I was studying Temple Grandin at the time, and Temple Grandin was, saying that you don't let them sit and rock. I mean, anybody can rock, but it's a different type of rocking that they do. It's just like a very, 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 very aggressive, and that's the way they kind of balance out themselves. But you have to show them different ways to balance out themselves, give them work to do, give them things to do. And that's what I started doing. They do this thing called echolalia. You will notice that they will repeat either you or yourself, themselves. Like, say, she would say something, or if you say something to her. If you said, "Put that away, don't do that," then she'll go, "Put that away, don't do that. Put that away, don't do that." And she'll just repeat it in a whisper. It's called, in the autistic world, echolalia. They're very repetitive. What I learned in homeschooling her was that she could not create a story of her own. Like, okay, you know how a child, you get a book, like what I was doing not too long ago. You read a story. She could tell you what happened in that story. She could tell you this story so well, even if she couldn't read, you would think she could read at 2 or 3. But if you tell her by the time she turns 3 or 4 to make up a story, she would take a story from something she saw and reiterate it. That's where their brain is she could construct something new, like maybe a picture or draw something and maybe add something to something. But to create something on her own, it's not something that happens. I haven't been able to get her to create something. She can tell a story. If she tells a story, she uses the same characters for everything. That's why one thing about it, she's excellent with Bible stories. She memorizes her Bible stories, and you not ever have to worry about her messing up or mixing anything up when something that she's trying to learn. Not sure what's happening there. So you've got the repetitory, storytelling, the just constant repetitory modulating. For my daughter, there was a series of things, because if I would take her to the supermarket, there was too many people. It was a distraction for her. She would start yelling and start calling people, I told her to be nice, so she would just say things like, if she see an elderly person, "Hey, Grandma," "Hey, Grandpa," and she would just start singing really loud. And you have to be able to differentiate, are they misbehaving or are they having a sensory overload? In her case, she was having sensory overload. It was too much. As in the autistic world, they call people who are not autistic or don't have disabilities, they call us neurotypical, which means that we're regular thinkers, regular, everyday. You could pretty much figure a regular person out. And with autistic people, you have to actually know how they might think. As Temple Grandin says, she thinks in pictures. Kathy's one of those. She thinks in pictures too. Every time you say something to her, she starts daydreaming and she can actually see it, and she'll say, really? Like, you can't say something to her like, Kathy, get out of here, I'm going to knock you out. Like, I might say that to her to make her stop, or just to, but she's like actually looking at it like what would it be to be knocked out? And she's actually seeing herself knocked out. She's not seeing me either popping her butt or just, maybe disciplining her, sending her to a room, or something simple like what I really mean. She sees the drasticness of, anything you say, it's like really, 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 like she's thinking that this is literally, and she's like, that would be very harmful. And I'm like, yeah. But I don't, and then I had to learn to tell her, I don't care how many times I tell her, I don't mean I'm going to literally do it. She's like, but she still doesn't get it. They really think very literal. They're very literal thinkers. Also, what else? My daughter, fluorescent lights can kind of drive them crazy, because we just see one light shining bright. Look up, we see one light shining. For them, they can see how many times it blinks. Like my daughter, she would sometimes start blinking her eyes and start rolling like this to make the light move more, because she's saying, it's like, it's fun for her. They like to spin around. They spin around in the middle of the floor. All kids like to spin to a certain degree, but this is something that's continuous. They like to just spin around and see themselves kind of like circular motions and things like that. They might pick up any habit at any time and just constantly do it. For my daughter, for a little while, it was taking her shoes and just washing the bottoms of them with her washcloth. She didn't care if the washcloth got dirty. She just cared that the bottoms of her shoes were clean. That stopped, and then she picked up something else. One thing she picked up was my oldest daughter, would be going to school, and when she would come home, every day she would scratch up her arms. And like, I didn't take it serious because I didn't see the scratches. And then my daughter was like, Mom, it's serious. I keep telling you this and she's doing this. And I said, well, you got to hit her back and let her know that you don't like it. Let her feel a source of pain. Let her pop her hand. And ever since she started, I told her she could, hit her back, pop her back. She stopped scratching up her arms. She stopped. And so, thank God, my daughter's arms are healed. She's very aggressive. They can become very depressed. They're very detached from reality at times. So it's a wonderful thing to give them God in the early stage, teach them about Jesus, because they can learn anything. And they take it drastically, which that's one thing I wanted her to take Christ drastic and take him at his word. Everything. You got to be very careful to tell them about dangers that you don't tell other children about. For instance, my daughter, who's autistic, she was like, I'll say about 2.5, and my baby girl was an infant, a newborn, and I work nights. While I would be waiting for my oldest daughter to come home, sometimes I didn't always go pick her up. By the time she was like 13, she would be walking home from school. And if Kathy heard something in the hallway, she would automatically go to the door. This particular day, I was asleep with the baby in my arms, and she went to the door and opened the door, unlocked it, and opened it. I was terrified, so I had to get gangster with it. I had to literally tell her, don't ever open a door like that. Someone will come in here and chop all of our heads off while I'm asleep. You might say, Dad, that's pretty drastic. So, those of you who know what the hood is like, I mean, it may not be your head chopped off. It could be you being shot, stabbed, raped, or murdered. Right? So, pretty much the same thing. Once I told her that, she never went near the door again. She was terrified for a while. And then she grew up realizing that somebody really could hurt us if I opened this door. Plus, I added another latch up higher that she couldn't reach. Even though now she could reach it, she learned. She's she was a runner. She would run off from me. She would run off. And one time she ran off into the night because my oldest daughter didn't realize how much she would really run. You had to really hold her hand. She ran off into the night around the corner. I had the baby, and my daughter chased her into the night. I was terrified. Then I went to run around the corner because I was afraid for my oldest daughter. And I was so angry. I was so angry at my daughter, my daughter who's autistic, because I feel like she put my daughter in danger. Because though she's a martial artist, I'm like, she's still not that big, and she's still my baby. I still look at her as my baby. And my daughter, she makes me laugh because my 19-year-old, she is short, she's tiny, and she says that I treat her like I treat Teresa, the baby girl, my baby girl who's 6. She thinks I still look at her as if she's 6 years old. That's not true. I look at her as if she was an infant. I remember her from like 19 years ago, and I held her in my arms. They are my babies. Yes, I would like to just put them all in one bubble and just keep them safe from this evil, cruel world. It's just so cruel out there. But it's so warm inside when you have a family and you love each other. And all you can do is, just do what you can do to protect your child. And then I heard these stories now. This is after my daughter's diagnosed. I heard the story about the boy who's autistic and 12 that they let walk off the school grounds, and he was later found in water, drowned. Ha ha! If I didn't decide to homeschool at that time, I certainly made up my mind at that time. So what I noticed in her schoolwork, which was written up by doctors, the doctors did say that at Children's Hospital that they did not see her, becoming, being in social situations well and really conforming and working well in a social. Sorry, I don't know what happened. So the doctors from Children's Hospital who diagnosed her wrote up a script that said that they did not see her being capable of working outside in society, that it would be very difficult for her because she has a lot of sensory, oversensory load. I mean, let me explain to you what that means. Sensory overload means, your taste, touch, feel. Like she can't absorb too much at once. You know how you can be having a conversation with your girlfriend and be like, blah, 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 blah. And then you're out at the supermarket and maybe someone over here is talking and having a conversation too. Well, they can have a conversation, but you're still engaged in your conversation. Well, for her, she would stop talking to you and want to know, well, what are they talking about? Not because she's nosy, but because it's drowning her thoughts out. And then let me tell you, we take so much for granted. I mean, now I look at things and it's like I see the world through her eyes. She's not only taking in words, we are too. We're taking it in, but it's like we have a thing, like there's something, it bounces off, like you can block it out. She can't block it out. Anything that, like, what she has to learn, and this is the only reason why I will go to Children's Hospital for different therapies like that, to teach them how to block out other things, how they would do it, which might be, from what I understand, the tapping of a pen. You might find them just like doing things like that. You might find older people using a pen to tap. This is like when they're in class and they're trying to block out other things that surround them so that they can focus on their schoolwork. And that tap, 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 they hone in on that tap, and it keeps them focused on the tap, and that draws them in to stay where they are. That's their other, so they control that sensory for them at that time. Wherein when they're young, like Kathy, she's learning how to basically, just to focus, and she's not really learning. That's why it's really hard for her. Like, if I'm doing work with her, I have to clear the whole kitchen. Like, sometimes, and if she's doing something she likes, she can focus on what she likes. When it comes to work, schoolwork, math, classwork, everything has to stop. Everything has to freeze. Like her being in the classroom with other kids, it would have to be absolutely quiet. Absolutely quiet at all times for her to even concentrate. And she feels everything. Like, she feels everything. If you're looking at her, she can feel it. Sometimes if you're not looking at her, if we go out, she will accuse people of looking at her, and she'll say things like, "What are you looking at? What is she looking at?" Now, she's a sweet girl. Like I told you, it's like she changes up. She goes from being a really sweet girl to somebody really aggressive. She's very protective over me. I mean, if we go out the house and it's someone that's not a family member, she wants to know, "Mom, did they do something to you?" And I remember one time, I'm going to share something with you. I was worried about her. We got to Children's Hospital and we had an appointment. And so I'm like looking at her. I'm looking at all the kids around. I'm seeing the other disabilities. Some of them are not all autistic. They're different mental disabilities. And so Kathy takes off running, and I grab her arm. I said, "Kathy, come back here. Now listen, there are real crazy people in here." I said, "So you got to be careful." She looked at me and she said, "Mom, I'm one of the crazy people." And she took off running. I almost peed on myself. You hear me? Talking about how I seriously almost peed on myself. I'm like, oh my God. This girl, she's too much. She is totally, totally too much. I mean, the things she comes out with, I mean, like, she's beyond her years. Like, she says stuff. Like, if she sees something on TV, that's why I'm very careful with TV and everything. Because you don't even have to tell her anything. She just automatically just, like, says things. I know that if she was around other children, that she would probably become affected without me. I like being able to have, like, the leadership over who she's playing with, who she's, being exposed to, and what they're saying and everything. I tell my oldest daughter, be very careful what you're doing, what you're saying, what you're watching. Very important, because she sees things in magnitude. What else? Again, if you're doing something, she may come in and just go overboard and do it. If she takes a bath, she wants to stay in there forever. She doesn't ever want to get out. And then, like, it's hard to get her in, hard to get her out. everything is obsessive. Just obsessing about everything. I don't see any questions. Anybody have any questions? Let me answer this question. How did I get diagnosed? How did my daughter get diagnosed? Well, first of all, Mama diagnosed her first. Somehow I just knew she was autistic just by the different things she was doing. And having worked in early childhood for over 20 years in education, I knew. I knew something was different even as an infant. I noticed that, like, anybody can have, like, gaps between their teeth, but it was just something the way she looked. And I told her dad, I was like, hey, Mike, check this out. I said to him, I was thinking she might have had Down syndrome, like a touch of it. Like the way her face would not, like she wasn't making like a lot of facial expressions. She wasn't smiling like by the time she should have been smiling. It was a minute. I think by the time she was 1, she started, kind of making, but then she would be like bland sometimes, like she just didn't feel anything. And sometimes she does it now, obviously, but he was like, nah, if she had Down syndrome, they would have told us. And he wasn't paying attention like I was. You know how mothers are. So, then I found out that her dad was diagnosed with autism as a baby. So, I mean, and he's like a genius. And he's got a lot of different series of I can't say that she got it from him. I can't say that. But I was told by someone that is a clear track to it, as well. Who can say? All I know is that I minimize a lot of her symptoms when I give her minerals, wheatgrass drinks, and I keep sugar out of her diet. That is like the best thing you can do for your child if they have ADHD or autistic. Get that sugar out. That white sugar is deadly. For anybody, it's deadly. So, what else? So, she was diagnosed by a professional. Again, like I said, well, what happened was my doctor's facility had a, which I love this, there was a couple of days that they were diagnosing children with autism, and my doctor gave me a referral for it, and she thought that I would be a good candidate. And I was like, I don't really want to do it. She said they pay you $50. I think it was $50 or $75. I said, really? She said, yes, just to undergo a series of tests. And she said, whether your daughter's autistic or not, you still get the $75. I went for the money. I'm like, I don't need the doctor to tell me she's autistic. I don't even have time to go. But that I made time because I was thinking, I got to go to work. And when she said $75, I was like, ugh, how long is this visit? And they were actually coming to the hospital, and they actually gave a series of tests. I sat in, and the way that they do it, they asked me questions about things that I see and what I was experiencing with her. But then they sit her down and they give her certain derivatives to do and to, and they see how she responds. And, they told me that my daughter was, she had 18 spectrums high on the autism spectrum disorder list, right? You're supposed to have 9 before they would, consider you autistic. Anything 8 and under, they would, just kind of like to watch you if it was 8. but hers was 18, and that was what was seen at that time. And she was like, yes, yes. And the way they diagnose, they don't. It's not a blood test. I think that they could draw blood and find certain different chemical imbalances. I'm sure they could find hormonal imbalances, but it's just been said for now that you do the testing. It's more neurological, physical things that you actually see, symptoms that you see. But autistic children are very out of balance. The hormones are very off, shattered, and so there are many, many ways that you can key in and see that your child is autistic and have them tested. You get a referral from your primary physician, and your primary physician is going to want to know, what are you thinking? Why do you think this? And you let them see, because they have experience. Primary doctors have, they basically can say, this child does seem like they are a little bit, whatever. And if they think, oh, it seems pretty normal. If you know as a mother and you know that this is something that's just out of the norm, you have to stay on top of it for yourself. And you have to get your doctor to hear you. In my case, it was very obvious. She was very drastic, very, if you have a little bit of the symptoms, you might want to get on top of it by just changing the diet, the sugar, and, making sure the vitamins that the doctors give you with the fluoride in it, by the way, is crap, it's trash, it's the worst thing you ever want to give to your kid. Those fluoride drops is what decalcifies your pineal gland and all of the stuff in your brain cells, your stem cells, and it adds all the fluoride is debilitating to your thinking processes. It's the thing that causes dementia in the old age. So the last thing you want to do, those I didn't know. Go to Olive May. Go to Olive May and get you some gluten-free vitamins that have what is it called? They'll tell you when you get there. I can't think of the name of it right now. But ask them for vitamins that help children with autism. They have, it's a HA something. I can't think of it. DHA, and it helps for memory repair, function, and restoration of brain activity and all of that stuff. So anyway, listen, we're going to do this again. We're going to do a Q&A. Nobody asked questions. Everybody just came on. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for showing up. And God bless you. God bless you. This has been Poetic Prophetess. We will be back again with more talk on autism spectrum disorder. Again, like I said, I have a daughter that has been diagnosed with autism spectrum by the state of New Jersey, declared disabled mentally. But I still believe, God, that can change. And a lot of people say you can't heal it, it can't be cured, they're born with it. But I beg to differ. Let's find out, We'll check in the next year or so. Listen, be blessed, be peaced, be good. I hope I answered your questions. Before I go, any questions? If you want to ask a question, please ask me now. Give me a question. If there's anything that I didn't cover, come on, just ask me, please. I see you up there. Come on, ask me a question. Come on. I'm going to stay here for a minute more just to see if, you have any questions that you want to ask that I can actually put up here. Think of one. Just put it on the screen for me and I'll answer as best as I can. Anything about autism spectrum. Don't ask me anything because I can't answer anything. I don't know a lot of stuff I don't know. But I do know about this. And there's some questions I can't answer in this. But I'll tell you if I can. If I can't, then I will tell you that I can't. It has been wonderful being here. I can't think of anything else to say. I see that someone's here and I want to talk because you're here, but I need you to ask me a question because I can't think of anything else. I think I pretty much covered everything from aggression to echolalia, stimming. Stimming can come in forms other than just rocking. Stimming can be spinning around, rolling of the eyes, as my daughter does. She'll roll her eye. I don't know how she does it. She rolls her eyes all around her head, and then she rolls her head at the same time. She does it really fast. So those are ways of balancing themselves out. You know, all the stimuli that's coming in from the lights and the talking and just everything. They're taking it in, and they can see it all coming in at once, where we as neurotypical people, we don't see it all coming in at once. We take it for granted that it's even around us. So what? There's a light on, okay. But for an autistic child, the light is on, you're talking to me, and someone's tapping my shoulder. Oh my God, that drives my daughter crazy. She can't do anything if you do that to her. So, and she can't do she can't multitask. You have to tell her to do one thing at a time, or she'll just flop on the floor, So, I am giving my daughter bentonite clay to wash out heavy toxins. But the one thing I do have to do, I have to stop giving her sugar. Really do. Completely just cut it out. And I do it for a while at a time, but it's not enough. You can't do it for a week and then think you give her sugar next week, she'll be fine. It's got to be constant for months and months. Really get it cleaned out. And that's what I'm working on right now. So I want to do that for me too. So again, this has been Poetic Prophetess. I think y'all just like seeing me. Nobody's asking questions. Come on, talk to me. Who is that? Who is that staying on there with me? Maybe it's my babies. Maybe they got the video on in there. Okay. Again, be blessed, be peace, be good. Thanks for being here with me. Listen, I would like to set up another Q&A so people can actually come on and ask questions. We'll do it for next week. Next Thursday, 8 o'clock. Be here or be square.